Hi guys, this is Aish and I'm talking to you on behalf of the International Quilt Show Dubai Organizing Committee. We are very excited because our 7th Quilt Show is just around the corner, and we assume that a lot of you right now are sitting and thinking about the quilts and the exhibition. And where exactly in our exhibition will your quilts fit? So I thought that we could do a series of YouTube videos up on the Classic Quilts page and share it with all of you so that you have 100% information on as to how you can prepare your quilts best for our show. So this time in the quilt show we have 8 different categories, and let me take you through each of them in terms of its basic specifications, and hopefully that should help you decide where your quilt will sit in our show. The first category is a traditional category, and this incorporates all kinds of quilts that are either whole cloth quilts, quilts with applique, or quilts following traditional patchwork and piecing techniques. It could be a combination of any of these elements, all the 3 together, maybe 1 or 2 of them, or just singularly one kind of quilt. You could be following kits or patterns. This is absolutely fine. The quilt show allows this as long as you make sure that when you're filling up your registration form, you give due credit to any authors or quilting books or kits or patterns that have helped you complete your quilt for what it is. Category number 2, contemporary. This category involves quilts that have a little bit more of an original approach to design and construction. You'll find that modern quilts fall under this particular branch. You will definitely have piecing, but you might even see that people are having more original approach to the choice of fabrics and embellishments that they use to make the quilt, and even the piecing methods are a little bit more original and different. So it sort of takes it away from traditional piecing and it makes it a little bit more original, but not too artsy that we would classify that into an art category quilt. Category number 3, the art quilt category. So this has been the quilt show's most popular category by far, and therefore in the 2020 edition we have split it into 2 subcategories. You've got 3A, which is art quilts that are more abstract, and you've got 3B, which is art quilts that are more pictorial. But the art quilt category in general is anything that comes up from your imagination. So we see the most creative works honestly in this category. People use all kinds of construction methods. There's embellishments, there's thread painting, there's free motion quilting, there is use of unusual fabrics in the make, and we've seen a variety of different kinds of quilts that have come in the past. When it comes to 3A and it's more abstract, we're looking for things that are not based out of photographs or naturescapes. But when we come to 3B, then portraits, photographs of faces, that is, or naturescapes, landmarks. These are the kinds of things that we would expect to see in 3B. So depending on what you have come up with, you can select whether you want to put your quilt in 3A or 3B. Quilt Show Dubai has always had and will continue to always have a special category dedicated to our beginner quilters. So who is a beginner quilter? In our definition, anybody who's been quilting for roughly 2 years or less is classified as a new quilter or a beginner quilter. It's very difficult, of course, for us to specify your start date. So we just take a rule of thumb as anything that's probably now between 2018 and 2020. So if you have questions regarding this particular date segment, you can always write to us and we're very happy to clarify it to you. Beginner quilters, they have allowance to do whatever they want to do. You could be doing an art quilt, you could be doing a traditional quilt, you could be doing a contemporary quilt. It doesn't really matter, because we are going to put your quilt in this category just based on how early or how long you have been quilting. And if you have been quilting for 2 years or less, straight away into the beginners quilting category. Category number 5, the Quilt Show Challenge. We frequently get asked about what the theme of the quilt show is, and I do feel this question is slightly misleading because there is no theme across the entire show. This means that if you are making a quilt that goes into the traditional category, It doesn't have to follow anything to do with the theme of the show. The theme of the show is actually bracketed within the 5th category, which we call the International Quilt Show Challenge. And the challenge theme for 2020 is United We Stand. So basically, this is all about how one would interpret the quilt, and we highly believe that the interpretation needs to have a very strong connection with how the quilt looks. If there is no match between the interpretation and the design, then we would not qualify this quilt within the International Quilt Show Challenge. So let me help you understand what we mean by United We Stand. First of all, the story behind the theme. 2020 is a big year for Dubai because it is the year where we are hosting the Expo 2020. It's a year of trade, it's a year where people come together, and it's from these very sort of themes that we have pulled out this whole idea about United We Stand. Unity could come from different forms and shapes, of course, and of course different interpretations. So if you find unity in color, then maybe a very colorful quilt would fall into this category. If you see unity in terms of a pictorial description, then definitely we can see how an artish quilt which shows unity could come inside the Quilt Show Challenge bracket as well. It could even be unity in terms of construction methods. So you just have to be a little bit clever in terms of how you are able to show us unity standing outside from your quilt. So when a viewer, a visitor in our show has a look at your quilt, they can really see the strong connection between the United We Stand symbol and what the quilt is showing. I hope this clarifies this for all of you who are very interested in making themed quilts for our show this year. Category number 6 is Quilt Creations, and this is actually a brand spanking new category in our quilt show, so we are very excited to see how this turns out. Quilt Creations incorporates using quilting methods to make non-quilt looking items. So these could be things that are wearables, dresses, jackets, purses. This could be in the form of table runners, cushions. Something innovative is what we're looking for, things that you could find in terms of home decor, in terms of fashion, but quilted. So remember, the 3-layer rule always applies. It needs to have a top, a middle, and a bottom, and there has to be a quilting stitch through all of it. But let your mind and your imagination run wild. If you are doing interesting quilted creations, then our show now has a space for your creations. Another very interesting new category that's coming up in our 2020 show, which is category number 7, is the Young Quilters category. So this is basically for any young adult, teenager, child who is picked on a sewing habit and is actually creating, channelizing their creativity and making quilts at a young age. So the bracket of the age group that we're looking at is, say, teenage years, so 19, 18 years and younger. We are limiting the size for the quilts that come into this category for anything between A4 to A3 size. I'm going to specify the dimensions somewhere along this video so that you guys have an idea. The method of construction is absolutely going to be decided by the child, and the pattern, the design, the construction methods, that's absolutely in the hands of the creator as always. But we definitely have a special category now meant for the younger generation, because we would love to encourage this beautiful hobby of creating, sewing, and we would love to cultivate this more in the young generation. So go for it. If you have a child who's interested, or you know children who are quilting, get them to sign up for our quilt show and send in their creations. We look forward to that. And our last category, which again is a new category, is that of miniature quilts. So miniature quilts is going to be actually a very interesting one to see, because it has been a trend that's taken storm across the quilting world. And basically the definition of this quilt is anything that is a full-size quilt is actually shrunken down to a 24 by 24 inch size or smaller, and you're displaying your construction abilities in a miniature size. So it's the regular blocks but tiny pieces. Alright, so if you have any questions regarding miniature quilts, to let us know, but I'm definitely going to put up lots of inspiration images so you guys have a very good idea about what would classify as a miniature quilt. So I thought we would wrap up this video by just going through some very commonly asked questions with respect to quilt registration, deadlines, submissions, when to send in quilts, etc, etc. So the first thing is, please know that the quilt show dates are the 27th, 28th and the 29th of February 2020. Seems far away, but if you actually look at it, it's just around 5.5 months away, and that's not a lot of time. We are opening registrations formally on the 1st of November 2019. That is when, if you go on the website, that is www.quiltsdubai.com, you will see that there is a registration form open for you to enter in all the details of your quilt and send in all the information that we need as organizers to make sure that your quilt can get registered and has a space in the next quilt show. Once we open it on the 1st of November, we keep the forms open all the way till the end of January 2020. So that's 31st of Jan 2020. It's the last day for us to accept in registration forms for quilts, after which we're going to close the registrations, and that's just it. Physically receiving quilts, there is a little bit of extra grace period. So of course, once you send in a quilt, the best thing to do next would be to post the quilts to us if you're not in Dubai, or come and give the quilts to us in the registered address, which of course we were gonna share with all of you as we get towards the registration days. But yes, definitely send in the quilts as soon as you can so that we have it earlier on and it's all sorted. The last day for us to physically receive quilts into the store for the show would be the 15th of February 2020. After that, quilts that are not received, there might be a very high chance that we may not be able to really showcase them in the show, because there is a period that we need to make sure that we're able to adequately display all the quilts in the show in the right manner. A lot of people keep asking me whether there are any size restrictions for the quilts that they're constructing, and the answer is yes. We have a size restriction in terms of the height of the quilt. Your quilt can be no longer higher than 2.5 meters. To be safe, 2.7 meters is the max. At 2.7 meters height, that is top to bottom, with the stands that we use, there is a slight chance that your quilt might touch the floor. Anything bigger than that, it's going to be all over the floor, and we feel as a committee that that is not an adequate way of representing a quilt. So please make sure that if you are working on a giant size quilt, make it giant in terms of length. Try to make sure that the height is sort of capped at 2.5 meters, 2.7 meters maximum. We are going to be hanging all the quilts this time, so a sleeve needs to be constructed. We will adequately display this on a registration form and as to how big the sleeve needs to be, where it needs to be, etc, etc. So watch out for future videos so that you are 100% sure on how you need to prepare your quilt before you send it for the exhibition. Finally, you cannot enter as many quilts in your library as you can for the show. There is a limit. There are 8 categories, and we request every quilter to submit only up to 2 quilts per category. So if you are absolutely crazy passionate quilter with a lot of quilts that you want to submit, sure, maybe the maximum you can go to is about 14 to 16 quilts depending on the specification of each category. But remember that if you've got maybe 4 quilts that you want to submit in, you have to make sure that you are able to send in 2 in a given category. So you have to think about the specifications and requirements before you assign a particular quilt to a particular category. A lot of priority is always going to be given to first come, first serve. So I suggest that if you already have a quilt that's ready for the show, the moment 1st of November hits the calendar and the website is live with the registration forms, you just get on and you submit the details for your quilt. So a lot more details are going to come up very, very soon and shortly. We thought we'd start off with this as our introductory video. We are so excited for the 7th International Quilt Show in Dubai, and wherever you are in the world, if you're watching this video, we welcome you to be a part of it. Come to Dubai or send your quilts to Dubai, but be a part of our show. Have a great day, guys.